Hello guys and welcome to my way to fire. With the inflation being the highest it has been in many years, let's talk about it. First of all, we will go over what exactly inflation is, then I will show you how inflation is calculated and how it affects you. Finally, I will tell you whether the inflation is a bad thing or not. Before we get into that, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you are interested in more videos like this one, then subscribe. The inflation got to 7% this year. But what is inflation anyway? Let's start this off with a simple definition, which is pretty much what you'll find if you Google it, or look it up in a book, which is what I did. Inflation is defined as the decline of purchasing power of a given currency over time. What that means is that your money can buy less goods than it could the year before. The difference is usually expressed as a percentage. So how is the inflation calculated? There are several methods, and one of the most popular ones is calculated using CPI, which stands for Consumer Price Index. You can imagine CPI as a basket of selected goods and services, such as food, transportation, etc. Now if you want to calculate the inflation for a given year, you take the CPI value for that year, subtract the CPI value of the previous year, then divide that with the CPI value of the previous year. If you want to see it as a percentage, all you need to do is multiply that by 100. To demonstrate it, let's take the numbers from this and last year. This year's CPI is 280 and 1 year ago it was 262. So I will calculate 280 minus 262, get 18 and divide that by 262. Then multiply that by 100 and the end result shows 7%. That seems to be correct since it goes with what the news show. So does this mean that everything is 7% more expensive than a year ago? No, this means that goods and services are on average 7% more expensive. If you look at a particular product, it could cost the same, or it could be 20% more expensive. Note that CPI is calculated as a weighted average. Although I said the inflation is the highest in years, 7% is actually not that terrible if we take a look at other countries. For example, in Venezuela the situation is much worse. They experience what is called hyperinflation. With their socio-economic and political crisis, they have been hitting double-digits inflation for many years. The situation got so bad the inflation hit absolutely absurd numbers in the thousands and more. Another example of hyperinflation is Argentina from the 1989 with nearly 5,000%, and the former Yugoslavia hitting about a half of that. So what causes inflation? There are multiple theories behind this, but the main cause is increased money supply. With scarcity being one of the key concepts of economics, it applies to money too. With more money available, it loses its purchasing power. The money supply is regulated by the central bank. For the US it is the Fed. There are several ways to affect the money supply. When applied to the Fed, it's called the monetary policy, which is a set of tools to control the economy. There is the expansionary monetary policy, which aims to help the economy to grow. This is often carried out by lowering the interest rates to boost spending and discourage from saving money. The goal is to get the businesses to invest and the consumers to spend, as they can afford to borrow more money. This is the situation right now with very low interest rates being held. With all this money available, it leads to growing demand, thus resulting in rising prices if the supply can't meet the demand. The opposite of expansionary monetary policy is called the contractionary monetary policy. When the inflation goes too high, this policy is applied and the interest rates go back up. The Fed is said to raise rates 3 times this year to try to battle the inflation. There are other tools available such as reserve requirements or open market operations. Another way to affect the economy is called the fiscal policy. Fiscal policies are carried out by the government, typically through its spending and taxation. I'm not going to explain these further, but if you would like me to do that in another video, then please let me know down in the comment section. How does all of this affect you? Apart from the rising prices of daily goods and you cursing the receipt after you go shopping, your money kept in the bank is losing its value the same way. Every year its purchasing power lowers and can buy less stuff. How do you prevent that? Instead of keeping too much cash, or money sitting in a bank account or at least a savings account, which by the way isn't great either, you should find ways to beat the inflation. I'm talking about investing. That's what this channel is about. For those of you that don't know this, the FIRE in its name stands for financial independence and retiring early. So instead of losing value of your hard-earned money, you make that money work for you and create some passive income. There are many ways to invest, but I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not going to tell you what to choose and where to allocate your money. However, I am sharing my experience here and I have already made a video about how peer-to-peer lending works. Although I do not recommend it as a first option, I personally use it as a way to diversify my portfolio. The main part of it is invested in the stock market, spread across some dividend stocks and a big part in ETFs. I'm a firm believer in the saying, time in the market beats timing the market, so I invest regularly every month. There are also studies which show that passive investing, such as index funds or the mentioned ETFs, beats most of the individual investors, even the hedge fund managers over a long time period. That's why I keep investing into ETFs every month and keep it as a major part of my portfolio, but dividend stocks are somewhat of a dirty pleasure of mine and I like to buy some from time to time when I have the money. Another popular form of investing is real estate. This one is very interesting considering the main topic of this video, which is inflation. As mentioned previously, inflation is a decline of purchasing power of a currency. So how does it relate to real estate? I will assume most of you guys watching are not millionaires who can afford to buy a property with cash. Unfortunately, neither can I. So what is left for us? If we decide to buy a house, we will probably have to get a mortgage, which we will pay off for many years before it is fully paid and the house is finally truly ours. But mortgage is not for free, out of the good heart of a bank. You have to pay interest on it. With the super low interest rates we are experiencing right now, it is not impossible to get a mortgage for 3% or maybe even lower. Now considering the inflation is actually 7%, in theory you are making 4% profit on the borrowed money. That is because the inflation shrinks the outstanding debt if you adjust it. This way inflation favors the borrowers and works against the lenders. After all of this talk, should you be thinking about inflation as some robber that steals money from your bank account? Not exactly. Inflation itself isn't bad, but it needs to be controlled. Too much, or too little inflation is considered harmful. The general consensus is for inflation to be around 2%. We have already gone over how inflation can be controlled and kept around that level, although it is too difficult to get it right every year. The opposite of inflation is called the deflation. So the purchasing power of a currency rises. That sounds like a good thing, but is it? It doesn't benefit spending, thus resulting into less investments into new technologies and progress. Deflation would make you want to spend less and that would hurt the economy. It also makes it worse to use debt as it works the other way than it was described with inflation. As I said a moment ago, economists mostly agree that a healthy inflation is the desired option. Guys, if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please hit the like button to support this channel, and if you are interested in more videos about investing, personal finance and just overall money related topics, then make sure you subscribe. As always, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.